Hi. Tonight, as I record this, it is the night before Tainus Esther, and we are entering into the days of Tainus Esther and Purim. There's a few ideas that have been brewing inside of me over the last week or so, and I've tried to learn some things to prepare for Purim, and I keep seeing more and more hints to this idea, but I don't see anybody speaking to it directly. So at this point, I decided that I'm just going to share these ideas, put them all together, and share them to you. The first thing is I'd like to make a disclaimer is that I am not a Torah leader. What I'm sharing is simply the perspective that I have and the experience that I have while learning these ideas. I am not a mental health professional. I have no licensing whatsoever, but I do have a lot of experience doing my own work with the professionals in my life. The first thing that I'd like to do is share with you a perspective on trauma, our trauma, instinctive trauma responses. Some even say that the moment we enter into this world, birth itself is a traumatic experience of which our first trauma responses are born with us. From a spiritual perspective, the idea of a neshama, of a soul, leaving its place of infiniteness, its existence of oneness, its being in the world, in the outer worlds, in the higher worlds, not bound by anything, not separate from anything, and being almost imprisoned inside of a body, inside of an individual. And that itself is also a traumatic experience. Now, even if those weren't taken into consideration, every single one of us, all of us adults, whether we like it or not, again, this is my perspective, or a perspective that I agree with, that agrees with me, I relate to. We all will experience adverse childhood experiences. Every single one of us at a certain point in our life will move from one way of living in the world and into another, and then further into others as well. And the most significant one is one that we can relate perhaps to what happened with Adam and Chava in the Garden of Eden, in Gan Eden, where before the chet of Eitz Hadas, before they ate the fruit from the Eitz Hadas, they did not have something that we now know as self-consciousness. I think the first person I heard share this idea was Rabbi Sheistal. You can check up with him if you'd like. Before he ate from the Chet Eitz Hadas, there just was. Adam just was. He was just being in the world, one with all. There was no consciousness, an outside perspective looking at him and seeing him. That's why he was able to go without clothes. And as soon as he ate from the Chet Eitz Hadas, it created a self-consciousness, a otherness that allows him to look at himself. And what he saw was someone who was naked, and that's when he went and covered up. We are all born into this world, one with the world. And we all have experiences in our life, traumatic experiences. For example, if I get left in school one day and somebody, perhaps a parent, their phone died and they were running late, and they didn't tell anybody that they were running late because they couldn't, and I got left in school, so I had a period of time of which I couldn't make sense of the state I was in. As a child, growing up in this world, from a survivor's perspective, I need to believe, I need to know that there are adults in my life that will take care of me. Otherwise, I don't have a sense of security. If I don't have a sense of security, I'll be in a constant state of tensity and I won't be able to survive. So if my sense of security, consistency, dependency doesn't show up for me, there are two things that I could do in that moment. And often we choose one over the other. Either I'm going to believe that the adults in my life are fallible, can make mistakes, are human, and not dependable. Or I could turn it on myself and say that no, the adults in my life are just perfect, actually, and there's something wrong with me. Most of us go through traumatic experiences and can't afford to believe that there's something wrong with the adults in our life. We have to believe that there's something wrong with us because it's too scary instinctively. This is all happening subconscious, instinctively. We can't afford to believe that the adults in our life are human. Because if we do, then our sense of security is broken. So what happens? I get left there at school. The adult in my life eventually shows up. I already had a space in time of which I believe that there's something wrong with me. Now, if the adult in my life is able to process things with me, then chances are this won't turn into a long-lasting identity. It will be this person, forgot, and they say, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake, it's okay. Sometimes parents forget things. There's nothing wrong with you. You're good, you're precious, you're everything. And just mommy or tati or whoever it is just made a mistake. Now, if they could process that at the time, then they won't hold on to this identity of there's something wrong with me. But very often, because at the end of the day, we are human and we will make mistakes, and our children will experience these things and they will create these identities. They will believe that there's something wrong with them. So then, if there's something wrong with me, if I don't matter, then I now create a part of me, an instinctive reaction to not mattering. And the instinctive reaction to not mattering is I need to matter. I need to make sure that I don't get left at school again. So now there's a part of me that is born to protect me. All right. So this is talking about, this is a parts work perspective in therapy, like internal family systems therapy. You can look it up. I talk about it a lot. A part of me is born and starts protecting me to make sure that I don't experience not mattering again. It's an existential issue to believe that I don't matter. So I have to matter. I have to find things, earn mattering. So what do? I start achieving. I start being the top in class, or perhaps I start doing silly things. I start being noticed. Please look at me. Please see me. As long as I can see that I matter in your eyes, then I'll know that I have evidence that I do. And then I could live another day. But if I don't return back to the essential mattering, not the one that I need to earn, then I'm going to burn out at a certain point. At a certain point, I'm going to have so much pressure on myself to matter because the expectations is always going to raise. It's progressive. So at a certain point in my life, it's going to be too much pressure, too much anxiety, not living up, not getting enough evidence. Now I need to turn the voice in my head that says, hey, you gotta matter, you gotta matter. I have to turn that off. So how am I gonna turn that off? Well, a drink, a joint, or perhaps any other addictive behavior. And we don't even have to call it addictive behavior, soothing behavior, self-soothing behavior. It just soothes the voice in my head that, man, I could breathe for a little bit, just turn the noise off. And guess what? If I continue doing that and I don't address the voice in my head, and I just mute it, soothe it, then eventually I'm going to really want to stop, and I'm going to have another voice in my head that's going to say, Moishe, you got to stop, what's wrong with you? And then layer upon layer upon layer of parts that are all just there to try to help me, and who I am truly deep inside is constantly being pushed farther and farther down, away from my reach, until at a certain point I end up in a state of, who am I? What am I doing here? So I said I was going to cover a bunch of different subjects. I said I was going to talk about trauma, IFS, Adam, Vayikra, Amalek, identity, masks, Delo Yada, Megila, Hashem. I got a little bit of notes, just a few words. So this is where it began. Last week, this past Shabbos, which we know that Shabbos, this is where the Dvar Torah is going to begin. If you're with me, thank you. It's 11 minutes and 45 seconds in. I'll try to speak as quick as I can. Last week's Parsha was Parshas Vayikra. We laned in Shul Parshas Vayikra, and we also laned Parshas Zachar, which talks about remembering to erase the name of Amalek. Shabbos is known to bless the days that in the coming week. For everything that comes in the coming week is blessed and is drawn down through Shabbos. So last week's Parsha of Vayikra is very, very relevant to this week, which contains Purim. And also, Vayikra and on Shabbos, we laned Parsha Zachar, which we also read Parsha Zachar and Purim. So there's obviously a connection between those. In Parshas Vayikra, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu to tell the Jewish people that teach them how to give karbanos. Adam ki yakriv mikem, karban laHashem, mina behemo, mina bakar. I'm not sure if I'm saying it 100% correctly. There's a certain question, which is, I'm not going to get into right now, which is why is it that the words say Adam ki yakriv mikem, which sounds like you are sacrificing from yourself, as opposed to bringing your sacrifice. He uses the language of saying sacrifice from yourself. And then what are you going to sacrifice from yourself, from the behema? So within a person, there are generally two souls. There's the nefesh hakis, nefesh habahamis. The soul, the animal soul, which I will refer to, just my interpretation, I will refer to as the instinctive way to live. The source of life comes from instincts, and the nefesh hakis, the source of life that comes from godliness. So when it says Adam ki yakriv mikem, that when a person wants to come close, yakriv, come close, karev, when you want to come close to Hashem, what you do is you sacrifice your behema, you sacrifice your instincts. So what I propose to you is that what he's saying is that if you want to go close to God, if you want to return back to your godly self, who you are, someone who obviously matters, you're going to need to be willing to shed the layers of instinctive responses, instinctive identities that you've taken on. I need to achieve, the neediness to achieve, the person who needs to achieve, the fighter who has to fight, the person who needs to matter. All of those layers are all instinctive creations that were created in our lives. So the first thing is like, where is my behema? Where are my instinctive identities? If I want something in my life and I really believe it'll be good for all the world if I had this, what are the ideas about myself that are holding me back from believing that I deserve it, that I can have it? Almost always. I'm saying almost only because I can't say it as a rule, but in 100% of my experience has been that I will always find some sort of idea about who I am and what I can and can't have, which is only an expression of who I am. Because I am that, that's why I can have it. Because I am that, that's why I cannot have it. That identity is what, if I'm willing to sacrifice that, and it's not easy to sacrifice that because I've been identified as that for so long. I have such a deep fear that if I let go of the idea that I need to matter, if I let go of the idea that I am a fighter and I am an achiever, then I'm going to turn into the hull of a donut. I'm going to turn into nothingness. I'm afraid that my identity is going to be lost, and who's going to be left? But what God is inviting us to do is to see that if you let go, if you're willing to let go, you're going to be able to experience being godly. Being, period. And in that space of nothingness, everything is possible. That is Vayikra. But there's one word in there that's very interesting. It says Adam. Out of all the words that we can use to refer to a person, Inish, Ish, Adam, there's Enish. There's quite a few words that the Torah uses to describe a man, to refer to a person. And they all represent different levels of a person. Ish represents the lowest level, which means the most closest to the instinctive way to live person. And the Adam is the highest. Something that we can see from the words Adam, in the word Adam, is that Adam is the letters, the numerical value of the letters, which is Aleph, Dalet, and Mem. Aleph is 1, Dalet is 4, Mem is 40, so that's 45. Adam, which is 45, is connected with the word Chachma, which is separated into words Koyach, Ma, which means the power of what? The word Ma is 45. Ma, Mem is 40, He is 5. The power of what? Adam represents Chachma, the intellect. The thing that makes humans distinct from all other creations in the world is that we have intellect. And intellect is our access to godliness. Intellect is where we get to access more, period. So the idea of koyach ma, the power of what, invites the power of what? The power of infinity. Because as soon as you say the power of this, then there's something, there's a limit. The power of what allows all. It's like a blank page, anything is possible. Interestingly, when it talks about the places in the Torah where it talks about Ish, there's a story of the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya. He was in his room one time learning, and he came out all excited, and they were the Chassidim were a little curious as to what we were so excited about. So he started speaking. He said, when the Torah refers to somebody who has leprosy, somebody has tsaras, he uses the word Adam. And when it talks about the person who is swearing, he's going to make a shvuah, it uses the word Ish. Ish is like the lowest level, and Adam is the highest level. So what we see is that when does somebody need to swear? A person needs to swear, promise, in times when he has many reasons why he should not be able to accomplish something. There are reasons to believe that he won't be able to. There are evidence against him. Now he has to swear, and the promise that my commitment that I will not do so and so is a commitment to in response to the possibility that I won't be able to. Which means there are instincts, there is evidence, there is reason to believe that I cannot do it. So I have to promise. That's why he uses the word ish. And through the promise, it allows me to finally unfold, and I can slowly level up to the level of Adam. But when it comes to tzaras, which I'm trying to remember why it is that by tzaras it talks about Adam. I don't remember at the moment, but I invite you to look up that story. Amalek. What's the story? The Jewish people leave Eretz Yisrael, leave Mitzrayim, and they start going to Har Sinai. They get there, they get the Torah. I believe Amalek attacked them twice. But they attacked the Jewish people right when they became a people. As soon as the Jewish people got clear on who they are as a nation, a baby, a newborn nation, as soon as they're born, Amalek shows up. As soon as they're inspired, Amalek shows up. And what's he there to do? He's there to attack your very identity. There was no reason for why the Amalek wanted to hurt the Jewish people. There's nothing that the Jewish people did to invite that, aside for their very being. So what do we need to do? We need to remember that there's going to be an Amalek whenever you're going to be going on your road to becoming. There's going to be a force that's going to challenge you and it's going to say, no, you don't matter. They're going to challenge your very existence. No, there's no God. No, you're not godly. So we have to remember that every single day we need to remember this, because anytime we are ever going to want to achieve anything that is inspired by who we truly are, Amalek is going to show up and he's going to say, no, you don't, you can't have this. He's going to challenge our very identity. He's going to say, you don't matter, you have to fight for it, you have to be a fighter, all these things. He's going to attack our identity, which is precisely what Haman was doing. You know, Adam actually comes from Amalek. Amalek, I don't remember exactly how, but the word Amalek is connected to the word of Suffolk. I think it has the same numerical value of Suffolk, which means doubt. He's not here to give you reasoning. He simply just wants to take the truth and create doubt about it. It has no existence of himself. He's just there to create doubt. So just like Vayikra, bringing a carbon to Hashem, bringing the behema, sacrificing your instinctive identities, Amalek is also the same idea. Know that there's going to be somebody that's going to attack your identities. Remember that he's there and wipe him out. Let's go a little further and talk about Purim. On Purim, there are 2 points that I'd like to talk about. The first is a beautiful thing that somebody sent me, which is about the Rebbe. It's right here. The Lubavitcher Rebbe was once asked, what can we learn from the custom of wearing costumes on Purim? The Rebbe answered, on Purim you see many people dressed in different types of costumes. One is a clown, one is an animal, and one we don't even know what he's wearing. Do you get angry or upset with him? No, because you know it's just a costume. In life, we meet many people. One is impatient, one is angry, one is apathetic. This is not who they really are. This is just a costume. Deep in their heart, they all are warm Jews, full of purity and beauty. We just need to interact with them with kindness and tenderness and take off their costume and reveal their pure neshama, their pure soul inside each one. This is true Avos Yisrael. So this is not just a process that we can do with each other. Of course we should do it with each other, but what if we begin doing it with ourselves? If I believe that there's something wrong with me, then there is a costume to remove here. There is a pure soul behind that which represents the true identity, which is godly. And that's masks. We see that the Megillah doesn't have Hashem's name. Nowhere. Perhaps, may I say, because it's another invitation to have godliness be revealed through us. Perhaps. Delo Yada. There's a mitzvah that on Purim we are supposed to drink alcohol to the extent that we don't know the difference between bless Mordechai and curse Haman. I'm sober, thank God. So the question is, if I'm sober, how do I fulfill this mitzvah? So I'd like to invite you. You can even cut this video and just share this part to somebody who's sober. Find all the identities, the part of you that you think is a Haman, the part of you that think is a Mordechai, and all the other characters. And do the work. Let them go one by one. This doesn't define me. This doesn't define me. There's a pure soul under it all. That is the true you. I wrote a few notes that I'd like to share with you and then complete with this. I'm just going to read. I kind of shared this, but I'm just going to read this anyway. We are born into this world, and our very birth is considered a traumatic experience. From early childhood, we can't escape it. All of us have adverse childhood experiences, moments where our pure innocence meets imperfections of humanity, and we experience a cooling down of our spirit. A mask, an identity is taken on. Until a certain point, I was just being in the world. There was no consciousness of self. There was no outside third-person view of me. There was just being. But then there became a moment when I was called a name by an adult. I was left at school one day after school. I was abused. I was hurt. And without having any idea in that moment, I looked at the world and saw that there was either something wrong with the world or that it can hurt me, that it's not safe, that the adults in my life either cannot protect me or, God forbid, are the very people who are hurting me, or I believe that there's something wrong with me. It's much safer to believe that there's something wrong with me. So I began believing that there's something wrong with me. I am the one that is broken, stupid, and useless. So we must remember there is a nation called Amalek. There is an instinctive way to respond to what happens, a behema in the world. Instinctive, no reason, not intellectual, just because. The job of Amalek is to attack your very identity. Remember him, see where you have fallen, and wipe him out and erase his name. Know that the true you is the innocent child who is on a mission to fulfill your unique purpose, uplift the world, and make it to your promised land. We can go through life, even have miracles occur, like the Megillah, but still believe that, I'm too far gone. We forget who we really are, or from an even deeper perspective, some people call themselves truth seekers. They are looking for God, for good, a reason for meaning. They are on a quest to find out there somewhere that if only I can grab a hold of it, I'll be able to internalize it. But even in the best case scenario, it's still going to only be a truth that is an addition to me. It's not me. It's just an idea that I carry with me in a bag. The tragedy is, in doing so, is that we neglect to acknowledge that we are the truth we seek. God is found in the very fact that we exist. Especially as Jews, the greatest powers of all time have taken us on, try to kill us, and we are still here. Our very existence is an expression of God. Our existence and our very identity is godly. The work, perhaps, is to stop looking and be godly, be goodly, be loving towards the parts of ourselves that are experiencing disconnect, discontent, and love, and be there for them. Ask ourselves, what is a godly, loving thing that I can do for that part of me that's hurting? Perhaps it's giving someone a hug when I feel like a part of me feels like it needs it. Perhaps it's listening to a song that gives expression to that part of ourselves. Create peace within, love our inner parts, and forgive ourselves anytime we ever forget that we are truly good and godly. Wishing you a kasher and freilich Purim, kasher freilich Purim, freilich Purim. God bless you. If you watched it till here, I have so much love for you. And I would love to hear your thoughts. Please share this with some people. Maybe even like convert it into a voice note or something and share it with others. Sending you all love. Hope you experience who you truly are. The experience of joy. The experience of geula. Of freedom from all of our ideas of slavery, all those identities that enslave us. May we merit that experience, and may that bring us forth to the coming of Mashiach. Love you all.